all. That was a little bit of an overview of what we did in 2023. So this is the end-to-end proof of concept version 1.0. It took a lot of people together to get it done. And we've got a lot of those people back on for end-to-end POC version 2.0. And I think Andy said it earlier, it's really important to have brilliant minds to get things done. These are our brilliant minds that we will have to get the end-to-end POC 2.0 done. So if you brilliant minds can introduce yourself, appreciate it.
No pressure, Kate. Hello everyone, I'm Louise, Head of Customer Experience and Facilitation here at IATA, responsible for a wide range of passenger standards, particularly focused on above the wing and the border facilitation aspects. And it's good to be back on the stage at another Innovation Day.
Hello, my name is Vlad, Senior Digital Innovation Manager from SICPA. So we are the technology provider for digital identity technologies. Last year we participated in the POC and we developed a digital passport together with IDNOW, which was the wallet provider for the last year. And also we, together with Branchspace, we developed the digital travel authorization implementation.
Hello, I'm Ursula, and I. It doesn't seem to work. Can I use this so many times?
Okay.
So again, I'm Ursula. I think we already, there was already an introduction yesterday, so I will now just focus on what we at Branchspace have been doing as part of the POC so far. And this was basically enabling the link, the customer experience during the check-in process, creating the link between the airline, British Airways, and the customer, authorizing basically the use of the digital identity, and therefore creating a seamless process. And looking forward to do more seamless with version 2.0.
Thank you. I'm Warbington. I'm with the SkyTeam Future Lab. I'm managing right now the platform and the governance with the members. This is our first year with the innovation hub in the POC, so we're quite excited to be involved with it and learn some of the lessons from the previous years and some of the activities going on this year.
Hi, my name is Vikas. I run a company called NeoKe. The way we define our work is basically building the identity infrastructure that is essential for seamless and connected travel, that sits on top of the industry systems. So it's kind of making it easier for people to experience travel, but also making it easier for partners to adopt these digital identity processes and tools. We've been working with IATA for some time and part of the IATA 190 pilot before, and very, very excited to be a part of the POC. Push the boundaries a little bit.
I think we can do that. To give you all a little bit of context on this POC, back in 2019, the think tank hypothesized Truly Me, a concept which enabled travelers to securely store all travel data and preferences on their mobile devices. So this was 5 years ago, and you saw last year we were able to test that. But then in 2022, the Air Think Tank introduced Trust Me, Know My Needs, which thought about a seamless provision of services using verifiable credentials stored in digital wallets. So that's the first time we tested VCs. And the team, Louise's team, mocked up a passenger verifiable credential related to a passenger with reduced mobilities, entitlement to a wheelchair. And it all kind of came full circle as last year we introduced this proof of concept, which validated the effectiveness of the Truly Me concept. And through digital identity, actually had a traveler purchase the flight, as you saw, from London Heathrow to Rome through a travel agent, and the travel was facilitated entirely through verifiable credentials. So last year we tested to see if digital identity could enable this seamless journey, and now this year We want to scale it up and focus on interoperability, because adoption and interoperability is very important, and demonstrate that the seamless end-to-end passenger journey from shopping all the way to arrival is achievable based on the existing and future standards in digital identity, modern airline retailing, and contactless travel. So, like I said, we've got part of the great team that's going to make it happen this year. So before we dive into what we are going to do this year, we'd like to speak a little bit about why we are going to be doing this. So Louise, one of the biggest challenges is that the industry will have towards a really seamless journey is regulation. And so can you give us a bit of context on the regulatory considerations that we're going to have to deal with in this POC for this year?
Absolutely. And I look back at the journey of 1ID and IATA with the industry over many years. And initially it was always seen as the whole problem had to be solved at once, that you had to have the entire journey seamless, woe to go, all the partners working in beautiful harmony, and get this passenger through. And over the years, of course, the realization is that you can do this in stages and start with the lowest hanging fruit, the points where regulation isn't impacted. But we also have to pay really close attention to where the regulation is required. There are several points where airlines are required to, by regulations, physically check that the passenger has the passport and the other documents that are needed for the trip. Inadmissible passengers result in significant penalties and consequences and fines on airlines if they allow someone to board a flight and head off to a destination that they're not properly documented for. So there is definitely a need to ensure that while we can go through and demonstrate a fully digitised process and show governments what's possible and how it would improve their important role with border security, we will still need to likely have those physical touch points occurring for the journey itself. So while we can demonstrate in the proof of concept that this is possible, any actual border crossing is still going to require those checks to occur.
So that's actually for the POC 1.0 and 2.0. We're going to go through parallel processes. The normal regulatory process where the airlines and governments are going to be checking the passports, etc. But we're also going to be going through the proof of concept process as well, doing it all biometrically. But it's very important to follow regulations. Thank you, Louise. So Vlad, last year you had just mentioned you worked on the digital passport. As SICPA is really focused on security and privacy, can you tell us how the digital passports will keep passengers' data private while still providing the right information to different stakeholders of the value chain?
Yeah, I think the main point here is the choice of the underlying technology, because the technology that's based on verifiable credentials is very user-centric, private, and secure by design. This means that now the passenger is actually carrying all that data with themselves, and they're able to share that when it's actually needed. Because the data is now with the passenger, the whole attack surface is much less, so making the whole system much more secure. And of course, we are talking about traveling, so you cannot really travel without sharing the data, so you need to share the data, of course. But at least the technology allows us to share only the minimum required data to satisfy either the business process or the regulatory requirement. Of course, the technology is also allowing us to actually surface all these touch points that are required for the passenger to actually share the data with another party. So by doing that and by actually displaying what type of data is being shared to which party, we are actually making the passenger much more aware what's happening and making the whole system much more transparent. So I think those are the kind of the main properties of this technology.
Thanks, Vlad. So still speaking about digital identity, Vikas, NeoKe is new to the team this year. So as an identity provider, why did you want to join the initiative, and what value do you see for the travel industry?
Bunch of things. First is, there's a lot of standards and regulatory work that is happening, and the technology stack needs to be at par with what's going on. So that's a kind of a validation for us, and kind of co-developing or understanding, what would be the ideal governance framework. That's on the regulatory side that Louise we talked about. And Vlad, you talked about the underlying principles of the technology. Now that has immense use cases. Like, think about it this way, right? So there's e-commerce, there's identity and some form of authentication and verification that happens. Guess how many people who come to a website of an airline actually register? Less than 1%. Less than 10% actually log in. And there's some truth be told, right? That these systems are not necessarily designed for ease of use and very transparent. And as a result, these are some low-hanging fruits that potentially, the technology solves really about data authorization, consent. And we talked about, between an interline scenario or between the airline scenario, how does the data flow, once you are moving from one airline to the other. So, and also multimodal. So there's like really good use cases. Why we here? Test those use cases, frankly, and push boundaries a little bit, like I said before. But also like have this ability to innovate and really understand, what business value we bring on the table right now. I come from the dark side of the moon, right? OTAs, right? That's my background. And one of the things we used to do was to drive conversion, right? Number one metric. And one of the inhibitors of driving conversion was data reusability. And the other inhibitor was that every time you ask an individual for any set of data, conversion drops. Segment to end. That's why we use segment to end personalization. Everybody has some. We say personalization, and I'm talking on behalf of like some of the best OTAs. The personalization is very, normal. But when we reach to a segment to one personalization through digital identity, that changes the game. So I think there's a huge value to be unlocked, frankly.
Thanks. Ursula, Branchspace enabled BA last year to test VCs by allowing them to consume passenger verifiable credentials. They didn't have that ability as an airline, and you helped them do that. How do you see this POC helping in achieving the modern airline retailing that Yannick and many others were talking about yesterday?
If I summarize modern retailing from everything even we discussed yesterday in 3 words, it's all about personalized, seamless, and all digital. And I think that's what we've been setting out to do with the POC and with POC 2.0. It's what Branchspace has set out to do both with our consulting and our technology services. And by bringing together biometrics and digital identity, this suddenly becomes a very powerful enabler. And what does it mean? I'd like to let us think again about what this would mean for Grand Tourist Anna, whom you met yesterday, or Kelly's parents, because suddenly, actually, their journey, all of their key concerns are being addressed. They will have less physical touch points, they will have less waiting times. We discussed yesterday during the innovation work group the proposal to actually board via biometrics, which would make life so much easier, would reduce queues and a lot of friction. This suddenly can become a reality. So the whole journey from check-in to boarding and to arrival suddenly becomes seamless. And this means customers will be happier. It will help customer retention, and I wouldn't say we might think, oh, Anna and Kenny's parents, they are not frequent travelers. But actually, if Kenny is happy that his parents arrive without any hassle and phone call for him, if Anna's son is happy and the grandchildren that she arrives relaxed at the destination and they can have great time together, they will suddenly even become loyal to that brand. And I think there is another big additional benefit both for airports and airlines, which is simply additional revenue generation. Because if the customers are happy, if there is no friction and a kind of seamless day of travel, it also means they are much more ready to buy. They will spend more money at the airport and also still on board on that day.
Thanks, Ursula. And William, SkyTeam is also new to the team this year, like NeoKe. Why did you join the collaboration, and what value does this bring to your airlines? Why is it important?
So I think, as Andy alluded earlier, the Alliance has a tendency to be brought in typically when I would say travel gets a bit messier. I mean, we have multiple carriers, we're crossing multiple borders, we'll have a mix of passports and visas and everything else. And so some of the simpler use cases that have been coming out of this are, one of our roles is to extrapolate that on how does that translate into learnings that we can take to our members, so that when it evolves to more sophisticated cases, that we can work through those and make it, again, as seamless for the passengers as possible. There's been a lot of focus, obviously, on the day of journey type of activity, so all of the security requirements going through border control, getting to your flight, boarding, and everything else. But there's also, I think, a lot of opportunities, as Vikas had mentioned, around the commercial side of things. One thing that we struggle with a little bit is that on the retailing side of things, there's a difficulty to share trust of one partner's customer with the other partners that could benefit from that information to help make it a more seamless experience. So that's another area that I think will be interesting to explore with the POC as this goes forward.
Thank you very much. So now you've heard how Gabriel's discussion about digital identity, how we did it, why we're doing this. So we're enabling a lot of different things for Kenny's parents, for the travelers, etc. So now we're going to talk about what we are going to do this year. And this is always really interesting because we put it out to the industry, so it means we have to do it, right? So in the next 24 months, what do we hope to achieve? We have a main proof of concept, which is a traveler purchasing either through an OTA or airline.com using only the offer and order credentials. So we're looking at modern airline retailing here, only in the offer and order space. Then we have that traveler purchasing an interline. So a complication that was not happening last year was using two airlines. That traveler would then receive an order instead of a PNR, e-ticket, etc. And then that person would also receive a digital travel authorization from the Australian government who we're working with. We're actually working with, I think there's 6 or 7 different governments that are on the POC this year. So we're working with quite a few of them. And then that traveler would travel completely biometrically from their destination through a connecting airport and landing finally in Australia or another government, depending on how much we want to test this year. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. So I want to focus quickly on each of the different modules. So this question is about travel credentials, and it'll go to Vlad and Vikas. Last year we tested the frequent flyer verifiable credential, a digital passport, and a biometric verifiable credential using only one digital wallet. This year we'll be testing more VCs, like digital passport, special fare, potentially disability verifiable credential, that are issued by multiple issuers. For example, the Australian government or the Italian government, different employees, etc., using these industry standards to store the traveler's digital wallet. We're using multiple wallets, we're using multiple issuers, so big complication from last year. Why is this important?
So I do think that it's really important for the whole industry to kind of test all these kind of use cases to really prove the value for the end user, for the passenger. Because if you cannot prove the tangible value and the benefits, it's going to be really difficult to get this technology adopted in production. And because the whole industry, we cannot have one vendor that will be able to serve the whole industry. We need to prove that this is actually possible to do with multiple vendors, all kind of aligning on the same set of standards. So if we can prove that it is possible to do that, using multiple members, multiple different implementations, but then still be able to achieve this tangible benefit, I think is going to be really important. And when it comes to us as let's say as a technology provider, of course, we are trying to satisfy the need of multiple industries, multiple different customers, and so on. So taking part in the POC will actually give us an important and valuable feedback that our product and what we are developing can actually satisfy the needs of this particular industry, and that we can actually make some kind of positive movement there.
Yeah, I think very well said. I think that it kind of boils down to there will be issuers of credentials with different standards, exchange protocols, because many times we can't control all of those decisions. But frankly speaking, the job that SICPA and NeoKe has to do is to understand what are those different pieces and bring them together so that we really focus on providing great seamless experiences. The other piece of it is attributes can be performed in the form of credentials, right? So accessibility, dietary, attributes are a lot, right? That helps to provide those seamless experiences. So knitting that together and that ability to have it in a wallet and ability to share that in an interoperable way actually changes the game completely. There's one more element that is very critical, that is human trust. And the human trust would come from probably providing a beautiful user experience, convenience, and you mentioned about convenience, speed, and that is very critical. And the other piece is comms or communication around, like, if we are actually enabling this and the users or the travelers having their great experience, that builds trust in forms, right? That, if you trust a particular system and that's performing really well, adoption is going to be exponential or a hockey stick in a way over time. So I think those are the two pieces that is very important to achieve in the POC.
Thank you very much. So that's the first module of travel credentials. Second module that we're looking at is shopping. And so this question is for William and Ursula. In last year's POC, the traveler was able to purchase an offer on trip.com using both Avios and cash for a BA flight. So what does this year's shopping experience look like, and how is it helping propel modern airline retailing forward? And why is this interesting from an airline and alliance perspective?
I'd like to actually refer to what Yannick said yesterday. He said modern airline retailing ultimately gives control to airlines over the product, money and data. And I think those are all very important elements which we actually enable with this POC. And the first, I think, is already to just think about it by creating the efficiencies for airlines and airports for their operation. It suddenly frees both time, focus, and money to actually suddenly look more into the shopping and revenue generating opportunities. And this means that if you then look at the other element, the data, by integrating the data as part of this across different touch points, this helps to really create highly personalized offers and propositions which help to generate revenue and customer satisfaction. And this can be as simple as additional travel-related services that we talked about, even bringing the ecosystem together from duty-free to various other services at the airport. Can even go as far as what we showed yesterday with this marketplace idea, that it even becomes more detached from this and really creates highly personalized lifestyle propositions. And in addition, I think there is this point of control for the airlines. So if then there is the right technology in place to be able actually to decide to innovate along this and be able to implement such solutions immediately by knowing their customers better.
Just extending a little bit to the comment that I made earlier, this is an enabler, I think, as well, for partnerships. So an airline that wants to own his customer, maintain control of the customer information and everything else, will be able to work better with their partners, potentially with these types of initiatives, because it will allow them to be able to, I'd say, give more granularity to the information that they do share with partners, and enable the partners themselves to give more tailored products and everything else to their own customers. So there's a lot of use cases around this. The other ones will be around loyalty, obviously. There's a lot of cases, Vikas mentioned it earlier, where logging into one website, but also being able to pay using your miles through a partner, and be recognized as a customer through their network as well. Those are all different things where this could help bring forward quite a good customer experience across the partnership networks that we work with. So again, we're quite excited to see how this evolves.
Great, thank you. We're running out of time, so I'm going to combine two things. So Louise, let's talk about travel authorization and the ready to travel status and the contact us status. So for travel authorization, we're testing a direct link between the traveler and the government. Why is that important?
It's incredibly important. It's also incredibly exciting. This is moving into the space, the future of passenger data. Currently, we have airlines having to be the middleman between the passenger and the government to forward advanced passenger information, PNR data, etc. Being able to move the airline into instead being a facilitator of a conversation between the passenger and the government instead of a broker of that data is hugely important. It is also attractive to the regulators. Now, governments get, initially, if we say to them, what an airline retailing, no more PNR, you get a panic, you can't take away our PNR. However, when you start to introduce the notion that they could get verifiable information about this passenger's order in advance, direct from the passenger, and establish a trusted, open communication, end-to-end encrypted communication with that passenger, where everything they're being presented can be verified, it's a very, very appealing proposition to governments. They want to take their border processing as far away from the border as possible. They want to do the majority of their border processing before you've packed your bags. They want to know who's coming in advance so that they can decide who they spend time looking for. The border control officer's job is a tough one. She spends most of her career looking for a bad guy, and yet all she encounters is people going on holidays. And one after another in a highly demanding environment, eyeballing people, waiting to catch that bad guy. Streamlining, they're looking for a needle in the haystack is how I like to think of it. This technology makes that haystack so much smaller. And it means that they can predetermine who they want to have a secondary conversation with and can allow that traveller to move on through. So governments are very, very interested, and we do see that. We saw that in last year's POC, and we see it again in this year's POC. The EU and the trials that they're undertaking with the DTC and the conversations that we're having with them about how the DTC works in harmony with the industry's non-ID standards. And even, we talked about TrulyMe earlier, our POC from 2022. Here's a great example of an outcome of a proof of concept where there was a regulator at the World Passenger Symposium in Bahrain, the government of Italy, who saw that POC and is now wanting to test it by issuing the disability credential to the EU digital identity wallet provided by Italy, and to test it in a travel scenario. And I think that shows the great willingness of governments to engage in this technology, and it's exciting. It's really exciting to begin to show what is possible. I would taper that excitement with a reality check that the e-passport was introduced in 2005, and we still don't have every country in the world issuing an e-passport. So we know that as much as we can do and prove, and as many governments that will jump and move quickly, it's a long, long journey before we see the full system. Not to put a damper on the fun.
Well, you know, we're still trying to push boundaries, like Vikas said, so we'll try and push those
Exactly.
boundaries with the regulators. So actually, Louise, to kind of carry on that for the passenger data, we only had one airline last year. We're using 2 airlines this year. We're going to be connecting to another airport. So what would this module, the contactless travel, look like from a transfer of customer data? How will that work?
The transfer of customer data will always be direct from the customer to the verifying party, to the relying party that needs the data. But doing this as smoothly as possible is essential. One of the airports is such a wonderful places for people watching. When you think about the infrequent travellers, and yes, you know everyone hates queuing and you see people getting anxious queuing, but when you really people watch at airports and you work in customer experience and aviation, you see that what people want is reassurance. They're anxious. These infrequent travellers in particular are anxious and they need reassurance. So being able to guide that and have essentially a conversation, that's what really puts the passenger at the centre. And making it an easy conversation that, yes, airline A is saying, you're going to be going to airport B, they offer a contactless travel option. Do you wish to share your biometric with them? And facilitate that connection. And without ever having to touch the data. And I think that will give the reassurance and build the trust that it's my SkyTeam account, or it's the airline that I have long-standing loyalty with, and now they're facilitating this beautiful process for me. Yeah.
So that makes sense. So we've gone through travel credentials, the shopping cart, travel authorization, the ready to travel contactless, and now the airport process, where we hope that they board biometrically, arrive to their connection airport, don't need to re-enroll, board their next flight biometrically, and fly into another airport, arrival. And so this is going to be potentially an obstacle, but as we said, governments are a little bit difficult, but apparently a little harder to work with than airlines. But the idea is to follow the regulations as well, showing that we're working with multiple governments here, and we're going to try and integrate them into the proof of concept. The Singapore government is interested, the US CBP is interested, and so we're going to be working that arrivals process into this proof of concept. So that is what we are planning on doing this year, and now we have said it to the whole industry, what we're going to do in the next 24 months. So watch this space. We'll have something interesting to show you by the World Passenger Symposium in October, and you'll see the benefits every few months. And we're very excited to work with the industry to achieve this vision. Thank you all very much.